My name is Bill DeBarba, and my purpose in life is to help people recognize what it is that makes them up and what it is that they can do with that information. I help people in all aspects of life. I've talked to people in prisons. I've talked to people in church. I've talked to people in St. Mary's Food Bank, all different types.
You're watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration, where we share interviews with incredible leaders who are crushing it in life and business.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. I'm excited to have a good conversation with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
What problem were you trying to solve when you wrote The Process of Living?
The Process of Living is written because I learned a long time ago that we make things more complicated than they need to be. Because really and truly, there's only three parts to who we are. We think, we feel, we do. Thought, feeling, and action. That's it. It's our lives are the way we work those things together. And the problem is we don't recognize it. We don't recognize the power we have to create in our lives. So many different ways. We give it up as their fault because he said it. It was luck. It was just a coincidence. They don't understand how much we can draw into our lives if we understand and focus and get those three working in the same direction. When you don't do that, you spin. And most of us spin. That's why I wrote the book.
We'll jump into this a little bit more later, but how do thoughts, feelings, and actions work together during a normal day, and can you optimize that combination?
Well, you go through a lot of different things during the course of the day. Something will happen that'll make you feel a certain way. You'll think about it, and then you may do something about it. Now, the problem is if you don't trust your feelings, if you have an ego thing going on that says, I'm going to get even with that person because they made me feel this way, which will only lead to more of the same. That's just going to bring more of the same into your life. That's the spinning I'm talking about. When you understand this, you work toward correcting, to adjusting, to putting things back in the course that you really know, that you really want, I should say. But you have to know that you have that power. And that is what
sense.
you go through.
Now, when those three things pull in different directions, what do you notice first, and how do you resolve that conflict?
Well, the thing is, first of all, you have to be paying attention. And the second of all, you have to own it. Okay. And that's one of the biggest problems right there. Too many people play the blame game. Okay. I'm feeling this way because she said this. I'm going to do that because he did this. Okay. What happens is what you're saying is you're telling your subconscious, you're telling your inner self, I don't control my life. I am a victim of what they do and what they say. And so you get yourself into the point where that's exactly where it is. So the idea is the recognition of what you have. That's the biggest part. That's the biggest part right there. It's the recognition. That's the whole purpose of the book. It's understanding, yes, you do have control. When you understand the concept of communication, which I cover, and you understand communication at different levels, some of which go on within you very clearly, some are obvious, some not so obvious. But the bottom line is those things that are going on with you are what define you. Regardless of who you want to blame for it, it's what you develop. It's what you put out there that makes the difference. Excuse me. That's what I'm trying to get across. People are scared by that sometimes. What do you mean I own it? Okay. That's a little frightening, but it's also very powerful once you understand it and work with it.
That's awesome. We've been working a lot. I've got an 8-year-old stepson, just recently got married here, and coolest little guy, but he had a real hard time with always thinking somebody had it out for him or feeling sorry for himself. And so we've got a mantra written on the board as he walks out out the door in the morning that says, good people want good things for me. There's quite a few different things like that where it's just help him to project that on the day that, hey, there's good people, they want good things for me, instead of feeling sorry for himself like everybody's trying to hurt him or something. So
yeah,
just kind of a neat thing. Like
that's a great thing to do, because once you understand that, or if you can get that drawn into your life, that's exactly what you're going to get. You get what you focus on, and you help him to focus on that. And that's a wonderful thing.
Can you tell us a story, like a real world story, where you caught misalignment and helped change the outcome for somebody?
I didn't mention this, but I had a business for 40 years. The entrepreneur thing that your stepson, yeah, I've been there. And I sold it just about 7 years ago. The business had to do with taking care of folks who needed software and needed support. Now, over the first few years, it could be any company because that back then there were no software packages for individual businesses. But later on, as that happened, we got into the market of staffing, temporary help agencies. Now, I'm originally from Boston, but I've lived in Phoenix for a lot longer. And we started getting a connection with a company called ADP, the payroll company, and they clicked us up with a lot of different people. I had more clients in Manhattan than I did in all of Arizona. However, people would have things, and this happened to be one of them from Manhattan, won't be a surprise. People will get panicked about things and respond in a different way. Their feelings and their actions and their thinking are not the same. Classic example, okay? In the staffing business, you better make your payments to your employees on time or they're going down the street to your competitor. I mean, like that, okay? So if payroll isn't being met, that's a problem. I got a call from this guy. I mean, he started out yelling, screaming, cursing, telling me your software sucks. I can't believe you're even in business and, going on. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing? I'm the only one, or some member of my team are the only ones that can help you. And you're talking to me this way? Fortunately for you, I'm a nice guy. So I just went ahead and sat there and I listened. And then when he took a breath, I said, okay, now can you tell me what the problem is? Can we just start from there?
Yep.
Okay. Well, he told me, he had me talk to one of his people. Turned out to be a new employee that didn't understand how to do the thing correctly. 5 minutes, we had the thing solved. Now, what was going on? And I didn't understand that at the time. This is one of the things that happened that moved me in this direction. What was going on was he was in a feeling of fear. I'm not going to make my payroll. I'm screwed. Okay. However, his actions and his thoughts were anger. So what was he doing? He was almost guaranteeing the negative effect that he was fearing the most.
Yep.
Because he wasn't in alignment with those things. Most people who would call me would say, hey, Bill, look, we're having a problem. Do you think you could help us? I know, you guys are great. Help us out with this. Taken care of, that
Yep.
fast. But he was going in the wrong direction. And had I been different, I'd have yelled back at him and hung up and he would have missed payroll. So, that's what I'm talking about. You have to have these things in alignment or you can get yourself in a real bad spin.
Put your heart, head, and hands in alignment, huh?
Exactly.
Walk us through your daily check-in. What do you ask yourself and when?
I find myself, I start the morning out with some meditation. And this is just to kind of calm me down. I'm a type A personality. I'm going 100 miles an hour. I sold a business 7 years ago. Every once in a while, my wife comes to me and says, you're going to retire when? Exactly. I just, but I'm not that type of person. And she knows it. I'm not that type of a person. So what I do, I have Outlook on all the time. Everything I decided I'm going to do this day, that day. And then I take a look at that and I try to put together the things that support each other. If I need to look at this particular situation, I should be calling this person. I should be reading from this book. Let's focus on those kinds of things. So what that does is it keeps my whole focus on that. So start the morning calming, simple meditation, nothing exorbitant, nothing, I don't cross my legs, but it gets me to a more steady state, do a little exercise, then I'll go ahead and get started with my checklist. These are the things I have to do. And because I wrote this book, because I have these thoughts, I constantly pay attention to myself. I'm constantly looking, Bill, you're getting really concerned and you're focusing on this. This is not what's important. This is not what's going to get you what you want. Put that aside. Let's work on this. It's because I own it. I give myself the power. And I can give you a good example in my own life, if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely.
I graduated from college in Boston area, Tufts University. And I was in Air Force ROTC. This is 1960s, late 1960s, when all the protests were going on for sexism, racism, gay rights, Vietnam War. That was a big thing at the time. Well, I got in the Air Force because the draft was still in effect and the Vietnam War was still going on. And I wanted to learn how to fly anyway. So if I'm going to be in the military, that's what I want to do. My second duty station was Luke Air Force Base here in Phoenix. Now, when they told me that, I mean, coming from Boston and going to Phoenix is like going to another planet. When they told me that, I did not want to go. I mean, I'm thinking all desert. I've got a vision of John Wayne pulling the guns, going in the bar. That's how I saw Arizona. And I said, oh, God, this is going to be terrible. Well, I was wrong. Yeah, the deserts are down there south at Yuma near the Mexican border, but there's also a big, wonderful community. There, you go north, there's Sedona, some of the most beautiful landscape you will ever see. Go up to Flagstaff, go skiing for the day. Uh, but the biggest one was that Grand Canyon. I have to tell you, that took it away from me. I was a pilot at the time of light planes, and I flew over the Grand Canyon in a Cessna 172 for the first time. That's the first time I saw it. I can't even begin. I don't have the words to describe. Well, I decided I'm going to stay here. When I got out of the Air Force, that was my last duty station. And the war had ended. I wanted to get a job. I have a degree in engineering. Defense industry is laying off engineers. So I couldn't get a job here. But back then, when I went back to Massachusetts, they had to give me the job that I had because I went in the military. So they had to put me back. Well, they put me on a particular type of technology that was fairly new. And I had a plan. I said, here's what I'm going to do. I am going to do a 5-year plan. I'm going to gain experience. The economy will shift. It always does. Then I'm going to go back to Phoenix and get myself a job. I was there 1 year when I got a call from a headhunter. He said, hey, Bill, I got somebody who's about 20 miles from Boston. He said, I've got this company that's looking for someone who has experience in the technology you're working in. And I said, okay, I didn't know it was in demand. I just did what they told me to do. So I met with them and we had a little bit of a conversation before the president of the company said to me, look, before we go too far, I need to know if you're willing to relocate. And I said, it depends. What are we talking about? He said, well, where we need you is our plant in Phoenix, Arizona. My 5-year plan became a 1-year plan. I thought it was a coincidence. I thought it was an accident. No, I was so focused in my thinking, my feeling, even what I was working in. I'm going to get there. And it came to me a lot sooner. See, our subconscious takes care of the plan. We just tell it
Yes,
what to do.
sir.
And I think my subconscious was getting sick of me saying it. I think it finally said, I can't take this anymore. 1 year, go. That's it. But that's an example of using it all together before I even knew.
And that's a big thing about just putting yourself in the right situations. Whether that's, I've talked to young folks that are hosting a podcast or speaking or doing whatever, trying to figure out how to get to a certain point, but just having those conversations, surrounding yourself with the right people, putting yourself in a job situation, whatever it is, to be in that environment, the stuff that you're looking for comes to you automatically.
It does. Yeah. When you focus, it does.
Can you teach us a 60-second reset that someone could use between meetings?
It's an interesting question. Nobody's asked me that before. I think basically 60 seconds of some quiet time is probably the best thing you can do. Because if you want to get a reset, you've got to get the noise out. And the only way I know of to get the noise out is some simple meditation, some just quiet time. Sometimes I hate to use the word meditation. It has a context that really isn't true. So, I mean, just sit, have some quiet time. Don't try to think it through. Just settle down for a little while. You get up from that, it will be a lot more obvious to you than if you got your mind racing on, I should do this, I need to do that. Give yourself a little time. That'll help a lot.
I'm always surprised by how, I grew up or ran businesses for years, and I always kind of thought the meditation was a foo-foo, weak, frilly kind of a thing. And I got a buddy who's a Navy SEAL Team 5, SEAL Team 7 sniper. I mean, bad dude. And talking to these business owners all the time that are very successful leaders, the driven type D, guys that are crushing it in life and business. And so many of them talk about meditation, just taking the time to realign. So that was why I was asking you about that. What would you do in 60 seconds between meetings to realign?
This was thinking that meditation, like you just said, was considered something a lot different than it is. And there have been teachers who come from India and other places who've shown that, no, this is not something mystical. This is just a very practical, calming, lowering the energy in your thinking, constant thinking, just a little quiet. Focus on your breath for a few minutes. Focus on your breath. It's amazing how things will settle in for you when you're willing to take a little time to do just that. It's worked for me. It's worked very well for me.
What does effective self-talk sound like when it's done well?
Effective self-talk is done well when you recognize, and I keep going back to this because it happens so much, when you recognize you have the power. Because if you're doing self-talk, starting at that point, starting that your thoughts, feelings, and actions, they're yours. Nobody else can influence them unless you let them. So the best self-talk you have is, where do I want to go in the next hour, in the next week, in the next 10 years? I don't care. What do I want? What is I feel that's going to be good for me? Now let me work it and not worry about it. Well, what if this person does this? Or what if this person says that? You will be drawn, as incredible as it sounds, you will be drawn to the path that will get you closer to what you really want when you stay focused, just like you told your stepson. It's the same thing.
One of the things I've been teaching him a lot is you get what you think about. If you start thinking about, oh, I hope today doesn't suck. Today is going to suck. You're telling yourself right away, and your mind wants to make whatever you say happen. So if you're saying, I hope today doesn't suck, your mind just heard today's going to suck. But so I'm constantly teaching him about stuff where think good things, think what you want to happen. Think of last year coaching his baseball team. He had, I think he had one loss out of the whole season or one tie, but I never coached baseball. But teaching these kids, it was teaching them positive affirmations, positive thoughts. I didn't know anything about the baseball, that they still were kicking butt as far as their little team there, just by thinking the right stuff. And then you act up to that level that you set for yourself.
People don't recognize the power of their thoughts. They really don't understand how much control they have. And that's exactly what you were teaching. And that's exactly it. So don't tell me you don't believe in meditation, because that's in the same line. Okay. Okay.
Just
go
called
ahead.
me
I'm
out
sorry.
there. Called me out, but I deserved it. For somebody that's listening to this right now that hasn't started journaling or meditation or anything like that, how do you journal when time is tight? And can you share a few prompts that you use?
Journaling is not something you have to do every day. Okay. You don't have to spend hours on it. I have a time set for me every Friday on my Outlook that says, take half an hour. That's it. And write. And maybe I don't do it exactly at that time. That's not important. But Fridays are my day to stop and journal. What have I accomplished? What are some of the things I'm trying to get rid of? Have I done that, or did I fall back? This isn't about beating yourself up. This is about recognizing what you're doing, how you're doing it, what's going on, what do you want to do this next week? Now, some people will journal every day. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's perfectly fine. I just don't happen to believe it's necessary to sit down and write what happened this particular day. I may take some notes during the week of things. I don't want to forget this when I do my journaling. But other than that, I only sit down with my little book and I write once a week, and then I hide the book. I don't want anybody reading it but me.
Now, how do you introduce meditation to someone who struggles to sit still?
Yeah, well, that's not easy. Okay. Because I used to be someone who struggled to sit still. You know, I've recommended people to read some books. Meditation is huge. So the only thing I can say is start slow. Sit still for a minute. Just sit still for a minute. Get comfortable. Don't lie down and fall asleep, but just get comfortable. And for about a minute or so, just try not to think of anything except your breathing. I just want to feel my breath going in and out. Nothing else. It just shuts the mind down for a while. Now, I tell you, I've been doing this for decades, and I still have days when I find my mind all of a sudden taking off again, and I have to stop and say, no, Bill, wait a minute. Deep breath. Let's start this again. And I used to get down on myself, but I learned from reading books and talking to people, don't get down on yourself. It's going to happen to everybody. Just relax. It's okay. Once you catch yourself, mind running again, no problem. Take a deep breath. Start following again. Whatever technique, there's dozens of them. When I tell people the basics of meditation, it's that. Just kind of pay attention to the air going in and out and try to keep yourself there. That's as good as anything.
So it doesn't have to be a soft humming, and you don't have to be wearing some kind of a goofy robe or something, huh?
And chanting certain words and that are in foreign languages and all of that stuff. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not required. You don't need to do that. And the people who teach meditation will tell you that. The whole point is to just quiet down, just slow it down for a little while and just let yourself relax. It's amazing when you come out of that, how many times, it won't happen every time, but how many times you'll come up with the answer to something. Oh my gosh, this is what I could do. I can handle it this way. I mean,
Perfect.
don't expect that every time, but the longer you do it and the more time you can spend, I have a 30-minute period that I spend. I've got a bedroom back there that's set up for meditation. I have a chair with a blanket, and I just say a little prayer, sit down, and I do the meditation. Pretty much what I just described to you, not that different. And out of the
Nice.
30 minutes, I would say I range anywhere from 30 seconds to 20 minutes of not thinking. There are days when I can't, and sometimes I'll stop it early. I say, let me come back and do this later. That's just the way it is. I'm a type A person too, and it's real hard to quiet it sometimes. But I also know that when I'm willing to stay with it and do it, things kind of find their way to me. It really does work very, very well.
This interview is sponsored by Newswire magazine. We celebrate the entrepreneurs and thought leaders shaping the future, those who don't just adapt, but innovate, who inspire others to think bigger, lead boldly, and create lasting change. Only a select few are featured in Newswire magazine, and for those who earn a place on the cover, the opportunities are unmatched. Your story shared with a global audience, your achievements celebrated on national billboards, reaching millions. Every leader has a story. Every vision deserves a platform. Who will rise to the top? Stay tuned. You're witnessing greatness unfold.
Hey, welcome back to Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. We're on interviewing Bill DeBarba today. Excited to have you on the show, Bill.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
What do people get wrong often about positive thinking, and how do you coach past it?
Sometimes it is difficult to think positive. Things are happening around you. Well, I'll give you an example. When I started my business, the first business I had, I didn't understand the importance of feeling. See, I'm a first generation American. My parents came here from Italy. They settled in an Italian neighborhood in Lawrence, Massachusetts. I've told this a million times. My wife says I shouldn't tell it all the time, but it is kind of funny. I think I was about 8 years old before I realized there were people in the world whose last names didn't end in a vowel. And you're going to tell me that there's a religion besides Roman Catholic? What are you kidding me? But the thing is, growing up, it was focused on working hard. You're in a wonderful country. You work hard. You can do anything. You work hard in school. You work hard on your jobs, and so on and so forth. No one even mentioned the word feelings. I don't care how you feel, just work hard. Well, I did that on the first business that I bought that was leading up to the one I really wanted to work on. I had no interest in it. It had to do with converting vans, 1970s, the tricked out paint jobs and the 10-4 good buddy, the CB radios.
Yeah.
And I had no interest in that at all. But I was able to buy the business for really cheap compared to the money it made because the partners were ready to kill each other. And it was an interesting experience. I worked my butt off on it. I had to learn it as I went. I didn't have any real interest in it. I didn't feel like I wanted to do this at all. But again, feeling is not it. Work hard. Well, I worked hard and things happened, including a recession that almost killed Chrysler. They almost went out of business. Basically, people weren't buying vans anymore. They couldn't afford them. And if you're in the business of converting vans and nobody's buying vans, you have a problem. It went bankrupt. I came this close to personal bankruptcy. I managed to hold it off. And I decided, you know what? If I'm going to be poor anyway, I'm going to go ahead, take my TRS-80 Radio Shack computer, put it in a bedroom, and I'm going to start working on writing software for people. And I worked hard, but I loved it. And when I kept finding people who needed work, just a little more difficult than the last one, but not so much I couldn't do it. And I started picking up enough business that I needed to get some people. I had to move it to an office. And then it grew from there. And then we had the connection with ADP and on until it built up into a very nice business. Why? Did I work harder at that? No, I worked just as hard on the van company to get it going, but I loved it. I loved what I was doing in the computer business. That's the difference.
Just reading about you online, doing some research before the show here, it looks like you've done a lot as far as really trying to over deliver on whatever it is. You're talking about getting bigger and bigger clients as you go along, not taking more than you can handle. But I love that you always try to over deliver. Now, you talked about the guy calling to cuss you out about the payroll. with that first software company.
That's
When
right.
emotions are loud and facts are quiet, how do you choose the next action correctly?
If you're the one that's happening to, or you're dealing with somebody that's going through that, which one are you asking?
If you're the one if somebody's watching this right now, they're in that kind of a situation.
Okay, so that kind of situation. It's hard sometimes not to blame. It's really hard. And usually you blame when the emotions are running negative, big negative. If the emotions are positive, it's easy to take the credit. And the emotions are negative, we got to find somebody. It can't be me. We have to find somebody to pay attention to what you're thinking. If you can't stop and pay attention to that, if you get into the attitude of, I am right about this, he is wrong, and I'm going to work from that. It may be true that you're right and he's wrong. But if that's going to be your driving force, then you're not going to make any progress for yourself or the other person. It's when, and by the way, we have a government that prove that over and over again. So this is where you find, okay, I want to solve the problem bigger than I want to find out whose fault it is. That's it. That's what makes the difference. So if you're in a feeling, things are not going the way you want, and you just feeling this anger and bitterness toward the people or the group or the person or whatever it is that you feel are causing your problem, as soon as you catch yourself in that mode of blaming, that's when you have to stop. If you can't stop there, then you're not going to, what I like to say, you're going to spin your wheels. Nothing's going to get better. In fact, could get a lot worse.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's the answer to your question. That's what you have to do.
Newswire magazine sponsors events all over the country, personal development, leadership, events on basically helping you become a better person, better leader, better speaker. Now, you speak in different rooms, businesses, churches, prisons, food bank. What carries true across all of them?
I was surprised when I started prison. I'm thinking, I may am beating my head against the wall here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, get through. Now, to be fair, I was talking to people in the Second Chance program, the women's prison here in Phoenix area. And the Second Chance program is finally people in the corrections are waking up to the fact that if we don't do something different, they're going to keep the recidivism is ridiculous. I mean, they go out, they come back. Okay. It's like a revolving door. They finally woken up to that, and they put these people through programs where they learn how to interview for a job, how to put together a resume, how to learn particular skills. This is great. This is what needs to be done. My job is to come in and say, with all of these tools, here's what you can accomplish. Here's what you can have if you can follow these basic guidelines. You know what? You talk to people. I don't care if it's one-on-one or if it's in groups. I can look at an audience. I never had more than 25 or 30 people in these second chance programs, each cycle of them. And you'd find the people that are looking at you, and you can see in their eyes that they're taking it in. And you've got others in the room that you can see that can't wait to just get out of here. And they don't, they think it's a bunch of bull. Okay. You're going to have that, either both. You're going to have that both. I'm there. If out of the 25 or 30, I could get 5 or 6 to see it and to be willing to learn more. And those are the people who come to see me after the meeting's over. Hey, can I ask you a question? What about this? And how can I handle that? And so on and so forth. That is where I get the sense of satisfaction. I can't tell you how that makes me feel when I know these things are true. I know they work. And if I can get people, especially people in this situation, to listen in, to see something there that they can put to use, it doesn't get any more satisfying than that.
Tell me a little bit about your book. We haven't talked about this much yet on the process of living, but I'd like to know, who is this book written for? If you could just, if there's one person you wrote this specifically for, break that down, who they are and what problems it solves for them.
I'm looking for the person that's not happy with the way things are going in their lives and feel like they can't do anything about it. That really is it. And I know I've said this a number of times, but that is the key. If you understand those 3 pillars that you're scrolling through right now, and you get those, there is an unlimited things that you can do. And the book starts out with the basic understanding of those 3 things, how they work, how they communicate with each other. And I get into the subconscious mind so that a thought, they all speak different languages. They work different ways, but the thought can trigger an action. Sometimes a feeling can trigger an action. I tell people all the time, thought triggered actions tend to be a little bit better and a little bit more calming. Feelings driven actions, depending on the feelings, could create some serious problems. So I say, if you're about to do something based on a feeling, take a step and think about it a little bit. But there is that communication that takes place among them. And that is what I'm trying to get people to understand. That's the foundation. That's the foundation of how the whole process works, is understanding these three things working together and how to manage them. And that's what really the book
Perfect.
is about. Now, first edition of the book, I told you I've got an engineering degree, and that sometimes is not an advantage when it comes to things like this. So when I'm actually going through some of in the first edition, when I went through some of the stuff, I started explaining how that works, how the transmission of signals go out from your mind, how it draws into your life, these things. I mean, really getting technical about it. Well, I had too many people tell me that they got to that point in the book and they stopped because they couldn't follow it, and that was it.
Yep.
So one of the big things I did in the second edition is I took all of that stuff and I put it in an appendix. And when it came to the point where I had it before, I said, if you're interested in learning how this works, go to Appendix A. If not, take my word for it and just keep going here. So that helped a lot by itself. And then I also got some editing. I found, feedback from people. Gee, it would be better if you said this, or I think you have too many words here. You need to, bring that down into something a little less wordy, stuff like that. And so you don't
Perfect.
really know what's right in your book and what's wrong in your book until you put the book out. Then you
Yep.
find out.
Yeah, I went through that quite a few, especially on my fourth book, spent a ton of money advertising it, just worked my butt off promoting and stuff, and then got on a meeting like 9 months later with a big time book, lady that gets books into hotels and stuff. She gave me some feedback that just absolutely crushed my my self view, but really helped out a lot as far as tuning it up.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody's watching this, if you're watching this right now on Amazon Fire TV, pause the show, scroll down, you can actually click and grab a copy of The Process of Living. You can order that from your smart TV if you got a newer TV, have that delivered to your cell phone, tablet, whatever mobile device. But I would highly recommend grab you a copy and just see how this can help you out. Now, for leaders, how do you use this work to shape team culture and hold people accountable?
Example. You do it by example. When they see the success of what happens when you handle things the way they should be handled based on these concepts, it's going to pick up among the people. If you're a terror leader that gets on everybody's case, first of all, you're going to lose employees. But beyond that, you're not giving them the examples that are going to work for them. And when you treat it this way, when you approach the problem saying, okay, we have something we need to deal with here. What is going to be our first step? How are we going to handle? I understand why this person is upset. Let's find out what we have to touch in order to get that calm, bring them in. I'm going to tell you something. That is what does it, because you are influencing people with your leadership. You are using that to influence people on ways that they can see for themselves work. And they can make the decision that I'm going to follow that. I want to do it that way. I got to tell you, some of the clients that got the most upset at us, the way my people handled them, from the examples, I like to think it's from the examples that I gave them, those were the people, the ones that got so upset, and we fixed the problems anyway. I never lost those clients.
Yeah.
They stayed with me because when they saw how we responded to their situation, and they know that the way they approached it, like the guy I told you about, was wrong. They know that. But when they see how we handled it, like again, not just me, but the people who work for me, that how we handled it, how we focused on the problem, how we got it resolved, they never left.
Prove that you actually believed in the product that you're selling, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And prove that the fact is we want it to work for them.
That's awesome. And now we've talked a lot about business. For families, how do you apply this to a hard conversation at home?
Well, I mean, the parents are the bosses, okay? They're the ones, if you compare it in the business, they're the leaders of the pack, hopefully. And they have to provide, it's the same idea, different context, but the same idea. They have to provide the example. They have to provide putting something on the wall that says, if you do have good thoughts today, then good things are going to happen. You may have heard of that. That's the kind of thing that you produce leadership. If you come in at the end of the day and you are bitching and moaning about your boss and this client, and these people are just jerks, and your kids are there listening to this, what possible follow through are they going to have? It's, sometimes it's so simple people don't believe it, but it really is. What are you demonstrating? And, how can you show them a better way? Believe me, they will pick it up. They will go with it.
Powerful. You think about parents that are constantly complaining about their boss is such a jerk. Their boss is always trying to get them things they don't want to do. And that kid, you're trying to figure out why the kid won't listen to the teacher. You just showed them the exact example of how you respect authority and what you're supposed to do.
Exactly.
Can you lay out a 7-day, like a simple starter plan that people can follow this week that'll help kind of get them back in alignment and following? I mean, first off, grab a copy of your book would be a good thing. Grab a copy, read it. But
I can't argue with that, of course. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. But I think if you wanted to put a 7-day program, I think the first thing I would do is take some quiet time, not just in meditation, but think through what you did yesterday or what you did earlier today. How did that work for you? How is that going? Does that give you what you want? Both within your own feelings and with the results you're looking for? What else could I do in that situation that might have just worked better? Go through your own personal examples. Reading a book is great. Don't get me wrong. I think it's wonderful. However, it has to be applied to you. If you want to make the change, you have to take that and apply it to you. How does this work in my life? What am I doing? What am I thinking? What am I saying? How do I feel? How can I get these things going once I take some responsibility? To me, the only way you can do it is look at yourself. Look at what's going on for you. Take that. Now, will it take 7 days? I don't think there's a 7-day program, but it should be an ongoing thing. And results will start to happen to the point where you'll get encouraged and it becomes easier to do. Nothing like success.
Perfect. I'm going to put you on the spot here with our last question. Leave us with a challenge, something to do in the next 24 hours to align thought, feeling, and action.
The same challenge I give anybody who asks me that question. Pay attention. Pay attention. You have to, first of all, understand that you control it, and then you have to pay attention to what you're doing. Once you stop blaming other people, the politicians, the world, once you stop blaming for what's going on in your personal life, and you start following through with what it takes to own your own life, that is the best thing you can do.
Thanks for watching Success, Motivation, and Inspiration. This episode was designed to help you level up. See you next time.